Welcome back to another podcast. Set next to me is my very own captain and a teammate of mine for a long time, Michael Lawrence. What is the message?
All good, bro.
Thanks for coming on to the podcast. Listen, you and I crossed paths when I was a young 17-year-old kid, got to Huddersfield, no idea what I was doing, playing rugby league, didn't know what was going on. I came from rugby union and I've known you ever since along the journey. Tell us a little bit about, obviously you spent the majority of your career at Huddersfield before coming across the Bradford Bulls. Tell us a little bit about that beginning of that journey, being from Huddersfield, being a homegrown player and spending the majority of your career until just a short time ago at Huddersfield Giants. What was that like playing for your hometown club?
It was massive. Obviously, sounds a little bit cliche, but at the time, dream come true. Obviously, I came through the system there. So I was picked up playing for my amateur club, News and Panthers. As a 14-year-old, obviously signed on the scholarship, did 2 years on scholarship, obviously went on to play for the academy, did pretty well with some success in the first year at the academy playing for England Academy, went on tour to Australia, captained Yorkshire, played pretty well that first year, got Rookie of the Year, and then in my second season, just as I turned 17, called up and asked to make my debut for the club. During the time there I had 16 great years at Huddersfield. Winning League Leaders Shield, having a testimonial year, played in many a big game, 2 trips to Challenge Cup finals as a member of the squad. Lots of happy memories, but also some tough ones as well towards the back end. But no, obviously when I do hang up the boots and reflect on my career, I'm really proud of what I've achieved.
For sure. And do you feel like you were always destined to play rugby, or was it something that you just sort of fell into?
Pretty much stumbled across it. So, mum and dad split up pretty young when I was about 5 years old. I was born in Huddersfield, lived in Huddersfield until the age of 5. Parents split up at the age of 5, and my mum, my brother and my sister, we moved over to Thornhill in Dewsbury for a couple of years. And the house that we got put in, the back garden, backed onto a rugby field. My mum being my mum, she had no idea what the game was. One night there were some kids out training and she noticed they were there a few nights in a row, and obviously noticed that the kids were a similar age to myself. So she went round and asked the neighbour, what's that game? And the neighbour said, it's rugby league, you should take your Michael round. So my mum, having no idea what the game was, dragged me over onto the field, borrowed a pair of boots, and I loved it. I loved it, and pretty much the rest is history. Fell in love with the game, and it's been part of my life ever since. Been
a big part of your life ever since. Been your whole life essentially ever since. I can completely relate to that. Obviously, my mum, no idea anything about rugby. Not come from a rugby family similar to yourself. It's not like we had generation and history of people playing rugby. But like your mum did, my mum literally just took me down, and I loved it. I literally loved it, and it's crazy, isn't it? Because then now we're sat here chewing the fat. But from there, do you feel like you were, as a young kid, was it always, did you get grasp of the game quick, or was it something that you felt like as you got older and as the career went on, you became better as well as transitioning inwards?
Definitely as I got older. So when I started as a 6-7-year-old, I loved playing the game. Firstly because I was allowed to get muddy. I didn't get shouted at by my mum, roll around in the mud, and on a Sunday after the game we used to get chips and burgers after the game. So they were the 2 reasons I loved rugby to start off with as a 7-year-old kid. I've always been very dedicated and worked hard. So as a 7-year-old, up until obviously till the present day, I always turned up to training every single week. I was available for every game, but kind of got put into a box, I'd say, up until the age of 14. Kind of just got shoved on the wing. Turned up to train every week, tried my best, played on the wing. Didn't get that much involved, but I was I'd say an average player. At the age of 14, as generally the coach's son left the team, decided to leave the team at the end of the under-13 season, and he decided to leave, the coach left also. So we were left with a really good team up at News and Panthers, but with no coach. Darren Fleary, I don't know if you know him, obviously Great Britain international, played for Leeds Rhinos, captained Huddersfield Giants. He decided to take on the team along with another guy called Adrian Brook, because we were a really successful team at that time. And he took a real shine into myself, and he decided to change my position. So believe it or not, they changed my position from winger to standoff. Okay, and in that summer, because we used to play winter rugby back then, so amateur season was from the winter, so we used to play September to like March, April time. That summer I did a load of work on my game. Passing, tackling, kicking, believe it or not, I used to be able to kick. And I had an outstanding season. I earned myself a scholarship at Huddersfield Giants, obviously, when I was 14. I represented Yorkshire. I went on to play for England under 15s against Wales, all in the one season.
As a standoff?
As a standoff. I actually signed to Huddersfield Giants as a standoff, believe it or not, promise you.
What could have been?
Yeah, what could have been I know. Could have been doing kick catches instead of rolling rucks.
Would have saved your body a bit of hassle.
100%. Yeah, so it was that season where it actually clicked in my head that actually if I really, really invest and dedicate and put all my time into this, I could potentially make a career out of this, having that 1 year of real success. And I think it shows the importance of somebody investing and believing in you also. Still mates with Dad, and I owe a lot to him for that pretty much. If it wasn't for him taking over my amateur club at that time, I don't know if I'd be in the position I am or I've had the career I've had today.
For sure. And I think one of the biggest things there is the fact that like so many kids are playing the game, and this sort of ties into what like you and Leroy are doing now, but so many kids are playing the game but they aren't getting the right coaching, so they're just stood out on the wing, or they're just a front rower or a forward who just carries the ball, and there's no one like going, oh well, he can actually do that, we just need to lean into that side of things a little bit. So like obviously he's seen a little bit in you and went, no, like Bruno has a bit about him, obviously not known as Bruno at the time, but Michael had a little bit about him, like we can actually make him into a really good player. But if that was just like if there was a lazy coach, and there are lazy coaches out there, they just go, well, he's grand on the wing, like he's not doing any harm, but they're not letting you like develop into the full potential that you can be.
100%, totally agree. It's about developing each player to be the best that they can potentially be. And obviously, with me, just stood out there, turning up onto training, waiting till I got the ball passed to me. I'm not really developing. Whereas being more involved, having a big greater role in the team, make the massive difference. And like you mentioned, mine and Leroy's coaching company, that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to develop every player, all aspects of the game, obviously physically, skillfully, mentally. We want to develop all areas to make them the best they can be and help them try to achieve their rugby league potential.
And tell us a little bit more about that. So for those who don't know, obviously transitioning away from the full-time Super League environment, you're now at Bradford. You're a teacher and you've started up your own company with ex-teammate Leroy, who's still there at Huddersfield now, still shining and killing it at the minute. But you have started up the level up rugby. Yeah. So that's there for young kids, probably people who may be listening to that to the podcast. It's there for you to develop with good proper coaching, and probably something that you could have done earlier in your career, but you got lucky to get just before scholarship age, which is key. And for myself, even though as good as my coaches were playing rugby union at the time coming through Ireland, I needed that as well. I needed someone who was probably tipping me up and holding me a little bit more accountable as well. So you have set that up. Tell us a little bit about the vision with that.
Yeah, massively. Obviously, it was probably last summer. We had the idea. I was sort of discussing with some mates at work about it, and they said, you need to go for it. Go for it, set the company up, go for it. So yeah, Level Up Rugby League, and me and Leroy spoke about that. Obviously, it's great in the amateur game. Generally, the coaches are somebody's parent giving up the time who love rugby league, and we need these people, we need these volunteers. It's great. But me and Leroy thought, obviously, we're coming to the back end of our careers now. We really wanted to give back and kind of to everybody, not just one team, so not just coaching one team. We thought we were going to open it to all teams, all players. And we thought between us, we've got over 40 years probably of professional rugby league experience. Leroy's got heaps of coaching experience, being assistant with Yorkshire and so on and so forth. So we thought we want to use that and we want to try pass that on to the next generation. And what better than starting a coaching company? And as a young kid, for me, if I was obviously primary or secondary school age and I knew that there was two professionals that with over pretty much 40 years professional experience in the game, I'd want to tap into that and I'd want to find out and learn what it takes to be a professional and what you need to do to try and get there and be consistent and have longevity at the top level.
Absolutely, and to learn from two of the best who are still doing it now, who have been in the game for so long, and actually get to pick your brain and get a little bit of feedback off from a neutral perspective as well, because like you said, it's no one's parents, it's no one having no favoritism. It's just you coming there, and they're going there to train like a professional for their week off school or their Easter holidays or whatever, or sit for a 6-week block or whatever it may be. So it's they're lucky to have that experience, and I know it's something that if I had that as a young lad, it's something that I would have been the first name on the list if I was when I was that age, which is crazy, really. Tell us a little about that transition now, obviously from that Super League environment, and we'll touch on a little bit about the career at Huddersfield, but from going from being full-time, it's your whole life essentially. You get up, you go to training, you go home, you recover from training, to now you're obviously balancing life a little bit more. You've come towards the back end of your career with that in Bradford, even though it is like a full-time environment, especially this year. It's felt full-time. We've both said that. It's felt like it's been full-time, but like managing work-life balance and everything else, like starting your own business and doing all of these things, giving back to the community while being a husband, being a parent, doing all of those things. Tell us a little bit about how you're finding that.
It's very, very, very difficult.
Crazy, no sleep.
Yes, ridiculous. That's the first thing I found soon as I transitioned to part-time. I think my respect for players that have played in this division their whole careers, and any Super League players that's drop down and play for a good few years in this division, respect goes through the roof, because it's a way bigger demand and commitment than being a full-time Super League player could ever be, ever. If you're working full-time, leaving the house at 6 o'clock in the morning, kissing the kids goodbye, and then getting home at 9-10 p.m. at night in pre-season, going straight to training after work, it's very, very difficult. There was times during pre-season where I'd say goodnight to kids on a Sunday, and then I won't see them again until like a Tuesday evening after school for an hour. It's a massive commitment. Obviously, balancing family, teaching, another business. Obviously, being a husband, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's tough. It's a lot, but you've got to be organised, and it is good in some sense because you realise that there's more to life than just rugby. So it's been very good for myself in many different ways. It's allowed me to do that transition gradually, which I think's worked really well for me. It's allowed me to kind of get out of my own head sometimes. When you're in Super League, rugby is the sole focus, it's everything. And if you lose, I used to be really, really bad. It used to ruin my week. I wouldn't want to leave the house, all this kind of stuff. Now, if we lose on a Sunday, I have to snap out of it on a Monday morning because I'm teaching, and I've got to be at my best at work again. So it allows me to switch off really quick and separate each kind of job and each kind of thing. So when I'm at training, I'm all in. When I'm at home, being a dad, being a husband, I'm all in. When I'm teaching, I'm doing my best there. When I'm coaching at Level Up, I'm doing my best there. So it's allowed me to separate things and be able to just put the different hat on when you step into different rooms, kind of thing.
Absolutely, and it's so admirable what you're doing now to, well, one, still be turning up for yourself, for your teammates, for your family, for your business, for your work, but then also knowing you as long as I have, like it's coming up to 7 years now, as long as I've been from when I got to Huddersfield, and seeing how much of a professional that you've been throughout your career, and that dedication and that commitment. It's the reason you're still going. I have no doubt about it. Like I know anyone would say that about yourself, is that the reason that you're still going and you've had the career that you've had is because you've never cut the corner and never not turned up, And even though, you said like it would ruin your week, but that's the competitor in you. Yeah. That's probably why you still feel like you're doing it now, and it's not a bad thing. It's obviously it's difficult, it's tough, but it's so admirable, and to see you and obviously come through under you and have your guidance for as long as I have, and now come back full circle and end up sharing the field with you. Whereas before I was a young kid, like an academy kid, just training with the first team, but then getting to go through that and come full circle and now share it as a teammate. It's my respect for you is through the roof, and I think it is a true reflection of you as a professional, and it's crazy. It's crazy that you're still doing it and you're doing it so well.
I appreciate that. But yeah, like you said, it's probably the care. I do care about what I do, care about the game, care about results, teammates, and I believe like whatever you do, you've got to put your all into it, absolute everything, to be successful and have a long career. I had some good mentors myself when I first started, good role models, people like Paul Fatawira, if you remember him, as a New Zealand international, Jamal Lisa, Brett Hodgson. They were the guys that I looked up to, Chris Thorman, Robbo at the time. They were the guys that I looked up to, the way they trained, the way they prepared early on in my career, and they were very big for myself. So as I've kind of progressed throughout my career and kind of stepped into that leadership role. It's something that I try to pass on to the younger player.
For sure. Tell us a little bit about that. Early in your career, you debuted really young. 17? 17 years old. So you debuted really young, and obviously we can look back now and go, geez, well, it obviously didn't go to your head because you're still here now. Yeah. But tell us a little bit about that. 17 years old, you get told you're making your Super League debut. Obviously, it's dream comes true. You're still an academy kid pretty much. Tell us a little bit about that and what's going through your head.
Yeah, so...
it's crazy that 17, like.
Yeah, I just finished my first year at college, and I was still an academy kid at the time in the academy, and because it was the summer holidays and I wasn't working, I was asked to train with the first team because I had a really successful first year in the academy. So they were like, whilst you're off on school holidays, why don't you train with us? So yeah, got the opportunity to train with the first team. I was training really well, and then I came in after August bank holiday on the Monday, and the first team had a fair few injuries at that point in the season. So I remember the coach, John Sharp, came over to me on the Monday morning and he goes, there's a good chance you could be playing on Friday. We're down on numbers in the centres and there's a good chance you could be getting your Super League debut. So I trained really well Monday, came in Wednesday again, and he goes, yeah, you'll be making your debut on Friday. So I remember we played Warrington away in 2007 on a Friday night, and they put me on the bench. It was on Sky TV. My best friend, Max, had pretty much like a party at his house. All my family and friends went to that house to watch it. Obviously my mum didn't drive and stuff and travel at times, so because it was on Sky, everybody that knew me, all my college mates, schoolmates, went round there. Playing Warrington, we actually won the game, and I sat on the bench till I'd say the 77th minute. It was very unreal. It was surreal for myself stepping onto that bus. Obviously travelling to the game, and there's Earl Crabtree, there's Robbie Paul, Ryan Hudson, all these stars of the game that I've watched for years and looked up to, and now I'm in the same changing room as them. And then I remember walking into the changing room and seeing a shirt on the wall hung up, Lawrence 27, and I'm like, wow, this is real, I'm actually making my debut. Going out there, warming up. The academy used to play curtain raisers before the games, and all the academy boys that I'd been playing with all year, they all stayed around after so they could watch the game and watch me make my debut. Sat on the bench till the 77th minute, and I just remember literally being sat there so nervous, like a nervous wreck. And then Ben Cooper at the time, he was like the S&C, he called me up, he goes, right, you're going, get ready. So I run down to the sideline, grab my card to go on. And he goes, it was back end of the game, and he was like, just get a touch. All right, sweet. So I didn't know what tackle it was. I just remember running onto the field, running to dummy half, pushing the hooker out of the way and having a scoop. So I had my scoop, and then I think Chris Foreman kicked the ball down there. We defended one set, I didn't make a tackle. And then the final hooter went, and all I remember was thinking, Super League's easy. That's all I remember thinking is Super League's easy. I made one carry and the hooter's gone, and that was that. But it was a great experience. Obviously, we got back, and at the time I remember hopping off the bus outside the stadium, and I was going to walk up into town to catch the bus home because I wasn't driving yet. I'd not passed my test. I was still doing lessons, and Robbie Paul pulls round in his convertible, and he goes, hop in, I'll give you a lift home back up to Newsham. So he hops in and he drops me at the house, at my mate's house, and I go, all my friends are inside, they'd love to see you, they'd love to meet you. So Robbie Paul comes into the house, and my friends still talk about it today. They were made up to see him come in. It was like, I felt like a proper,
the man.
Yeah, it was a really good feeling to be able to bring him into the house, and all my mates could shake his hand and get autographs and pictures and things like that. So it was a very memorable occasion. Obviously, didn't play much rugby, but it was very memorable. I remember the year after, I had a really good pre-season. That was at the back end of the year in August, and then I made my full debut Easter Monday the year after, where I started against St Helens and played a full game, and we won that one as well, and it kind of kicked on from there.
2 from 2 in your first 2 games as well.
Pretty much, not a bad record, to start off, so I was happy with that.
That's a great start. Was that like the I made it moment when you got to play Easter Monday, St Helens, you won, and you actually played the full game? You're feeling...
Yeah, feeling good about myself after that one, to be fair, because they were a really good side. I was playing centre, and I was up against Matt Gidley, obviously one of the best centres in the world at the time, played for Australia, playing for St Helens against star-studded St Helens team, Sean Long, Leon Price, Paul Sculthorpe, Paul playing, Willie Talau, really good. And we managed to get the win at home, Huddersfield. We won 18-16 on my debut, so yeah, that was really pleasing. It was just before my the day before my birthday as well, so all the boys came out after as well.
Celebrations,
for a beer, and celebrated. So no, that was another good one. To be fair, yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind those first few years, full time. Went very successful. I'm pretty lucky through injuries and had some really good players and coaches around me at that time to help guide me.
And then sort of just kicked on from there. By the time I got to Huddersfield, I think you had the 12 shirt. 12 shirt, so you worked your way in, so wing centre, and then slowly came into now you're rocking around in what, the 10 shirt, so you're full front rower now, fully fledged front rower. Obviously, at the Huddersfield, it's not been easy ever, has it? It's never been easy, and there's been peaks and troughs, and there's been you're going in the middle eights. I remember, I think it was about 18 in the middle 2018 when I got there. Huddersfield were in them, or no, Super 8s that year. But all the same, it's never been easy. But what has been the biggest driving force for you to keep turning up? Obviously, it's your hometown club, but like there are times probably you're feeling that self doubt, or you're feeling like, geez, this is a bad period of time. And then obviously you have the highs of Challenge Cup and league leaders and all the other stuff. But what's it like when you're riding that wave?
I've had some roller coasters. I say it every year. Me and my wife sit down when it gets to like January, February time, and I'm like, you ready to hop back on the roller coaster again for another year? Because it literally is that. Rugby league is a roller coaster of emotions. And the highs are short-lived and the lows are short-lived as well. That's one thing I've come to learn as my career's gone on. Nothing lasts forever. Yeah. So like even when it's really good for a short period of time. And if it's bad for a short period of time. And then most of your career spent somewhere in the middle. But at Huddersfield, like I said, rid the wave, had some great years and some really tough ones as well in short spaces of time. Like obviously 2015 we were one game away from the grand final, and then less than 12 months later we're one game away from relegation. That's how quick it can change in a short period of time. But yeah, I've always had that driving, that determination to be successful, especially obviously still now, but when I was at Huddersfield, obviously with being my hometown, and I knew all the fans, I knew the staff, I knew the people that work there. They don't have a lot of fans, but they are passionate fans. Same as at Bradford. Bradford fans are some of the most passionate I've ever come across. But I've always had that drive. I always felt I felt responsible. I felt responsible for the performances and the way we performed. And yeah, it really mattered a lot to me, to be fair, to be successful. And that was the driving force every year. Every year. I don't know if everybody felt like that. I know a few people did. Obviously myself, Jermaine, Leroy, obviously I had a bit of a stronger connection with the club at the time. But yeah, I always felt I have to do my best, perform my best, because it means a lot to myself and the people of the town and my family that I'm representing. Absolutely,
and I think it's funny you mention you, Jez, Leroy. I feel like when I got there, I could see that straight away. You three, the Kings of Huddersfield, you know what I mean? You're the Kings of Huddersfield, but you three were a massive driving factor, and obviously Jez has hung the boots up now. Leroy's still there, and you're still kicking on. But I feel like it was an interesting dynamic when you and Jez moved on that year, and that was the end of that era as such, because you've been there for so long. But having that kind of leadership was so important. And obviously, I got to touch that really early when I first come over. Like I think I ended up training, like I'd only been over on trial, and I was then training with the first team. And then next thing you know, I'm doing a Super League pre-season, which was mad to me at the time, because there's like, on reflection, there's no way I should have been there. I was just thrown in the deep end. But getting to see that kind of leadership, and like anyone who doesn't know you, like they're three of the most professional blokes I've ever met in my life, and that is. They are the driving force of Huddersfield Giants, or were the driving force of Huddersfield Giants as long as I was there. And I think me and you, 22 was both our last years there, wasn't it? So we had, neither of us played, but we had the Challenge Cup, final. I know it was that close, but it's a shame. It would have been a great way to sort of like see off the time at Huddersfield, I suppose. But off the back of that 2022 year, you then kicked on and had your World Cup experience with Jamaica. What was it like representing your heritage? And tell us a little bit about that side of your family and obviously what that was like.
Yeah, obviously finishing off on 2022, that was probably the worst year I'd had at Huddersfield. Probably the darkest year for myself. That Challenge Cup final and missing out on that one probably sent me to a dark place, and was probably the driving force with that behind me, thinking, yeah, it's time for a new challenge. And it was probably at that point that I realised that opinions and only one person's opinion can have a massive bearing on your career. That's one thing I'd learnt at that point. Probably up until that point, I was very fortunate to be on the right side of everybody else's opinions, to be honest. But looking back now, it's one of probably the best things that's happened as well at the same time. But yeah, at the end of that year, which was a tough year for myself, the focus was pretty much the World Cup. I remember when I was telling my dad that I was going to represent Jamaica and we're going to play in the World Cup. I'd done a lot of things in my career up until that point, obviously being 32 at that time, and played for England Knights, England Academy, Giants debut, testimonials, all that kind of stuff, League Leaders Shield. But the pride that he had up on his face when I told him I was going to represent Jamaica in the World Cup was like something I've never seen before. Both him and my mum, obviously they were both born in Hanover in Jamaica, my dad born in Kingston. They're both Jamaican born and bred. So yeah, to get to represent them and all my family in a World Cup on the biggest stage was amazing. And yeah, it's one of the best experiences, if not the best, I've ever had in rugby league. Although it sounds crazy, I say the best feeling I've ever had on a rugby pitch, second to none, was when Bish scored that try against New Zealand. Although I think we were 60 points down in the game at that time, but I have never had a feeling or a rush of adrenaline and excitement and pride as when Bish got over the line against New Zealand. Obviously, one of the best teams in the world, NRL superstar, star-studded team, and we managed to score Jamaica's first ever World Cup try against obviously a champion side in the Kiwis.
Got number 1 ranked going into that tournament as well. So like, I remember seeing the celebration from you, like, because we were in the same group, obviously, and crazy. And I think just touching on 22, I think that's a perfect. It was probably just what you needed to finish off what was a not ideal season. I think you and I were both in the same boat, probably back at bad side of an opinion. Not the best season for either of us, really. Like, obviously, you weren't getting the game time that you probably felt like you deserved. The Challenge Cup was a frustrating situation, and then to get that kind of experience, which is a complete coin flip from what was probably not a great way to finish the season, to then go into camp, and there's nothing like camp. I'll talk about camp all day. It's the best experience. We were both based in Leeds City Centre. What a great city! What a great what a 3.5 weeks. We were just talking about before how good it was, and then obviously going against the number 1 ranked side, scoring Jamaica's first World Cup try. That's as good as it gets, isn't it?
Pretty much. Like I said, yeah, probably that month, one of the best experiences I've had in my rugby league career. I think my wife knew how important it was to me as well, because literally 8 days before I went off to camp, my son was born. So I'd left, obviously, Laura at home and Nathan with a newborn for a month to go play rugby. One thing she'll probably never let me live down, but also something she knew I wanted to do, and it was obviously a lifelong dream to represent and play in a World Cup. But yeah, absolute great bunch of lads. Obviously, I'm not sure too much how much of a dynamic you had in your squad, but we had a lot of guys come over from the island that play in the domestic competition over there, and it was great getting to interact and work with them as well at the same time and try to develop their game, because our team was made up of everything. We had pretty much amateurs, a few full-time professionals, and then a lot of lads from the championship as well, and everybody just came together as a driving force. Everything wasn't perfect. I've got many a funny story about stuff that's out of this world, pretty much, that went on during camp, but we had fun. We had an absolutely great time, to be fair, and we felt like we represented the nation as well as possible during that World Cup. We felt like we was everybody's second team. We said, we're going to be everybody's second team. We're massive underdogs, but we just want to go out there and compete and show what Jamaica are about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the best things about coming into camp, especially with a tier 2 nation like Ireland, like Jamaica, is the sense of enjoyment, and just like you said, you have nothing to lose. You want to be everyone's second favourite team. There's no pressure on you. There's no pressure on you in the World Cup, which is it's the best experience ever, and then you get to properly enjoy your rugby, because at the end of the day, you're not contractually obliged. You're not losing out on any finances. You're not gonna, am I gonna re-sign next year, or am I gonna put myself in the bad? You're just there to spend time with a load of people who are also in the same situation. They're taking time out of their off season, and that's one of the special things about going into a camp, is that everyone there, you have part-time, full-time, amateur lads who are all taking time out of their off work or out of their off season to come together, and the crack is 90, like you're having the best time ever. And the lads are having like a red hot dig. No one's forcing them to play for Jamaica. No one's forcing them to play for Ireland. There's absolutely no financial benefit to doing it. Most people are losing money by doing it, losing a lot of money by doing it. But your training setup's not great, like but that's the enjoyment of it. It's not, you're not like in a Super League setup. It's completely different. But that's the joy of coming together, and like you said, scoring that try against the Kiwis. Well, on my World Cup debut, I only ended up playing against New Zealand. I didn't play against you lot. I didn't play against Lebanon. So my World Cup debut was against New Zealand. All I wanted to do was play in the World Cup. Got to do that, got to start. And we went 2-0 up off a penalty, scored from about 40 out, like in front of the six, and the crowd went nuts. And like I could hear me mates were screaming in the crowd. And like you said, it's the best feeling. Like that was euphoria for me. Like that was the cherry on top. So yeah, those experiences make it all worthwhile. Like I think the memories at the end of the day, when you reflect back, or when you, like obviously you're coming more towards the back end, when you reflect on those moments, you go, geez, if they're not the good times, do not even talk to me about the bad times.
100%. Yeah, that's it. It was amazing. It's something that I'll remember for a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, it's the best ever. It's the best ever. Coming on to a little bit forward, then after that World Cup, you sign at Bradford.
Yep.
You've dropped into the Championship. I've heard you say a few times, like obviously James Donaldson's just come in now, and he's like, Jesus, it's not as fucking easy as people think, is it? He's been playing. You were like, yeah, that's what I thought my first year as well. But like, obviously, it is slower. It's slower. The pace of the game's a bit slower. But the whole way it's played is completely different. There's massive contacts. There's you don't know what you're getting. It's less scripted, isn't it? You don't know what way the team you're coming up against is going to defend. You just don't know what you're getting. You could be on a narrow pitch like ours. You could be on a pitch with a hill. You could be on a really wide, really nice pitch like Toulouse or up at York somewhere. And you're getting something different every weekend. You don't know who's coming in on loan from where, or what 17 you're going to be up against. What was that like, that initial transition, dropping into the Championship, and then how are you enjoying your time now, captaining and that?
Yeah, it was a massive shock to the system. Just the first pre-season, the first week of training, I was thinking, what is going on? To be fair, it's totally different. Like I said, when I first came, Bradford had a massive dynamic of players, like amateurs, professionals, semi-pro, all training together at the same time. So the standard was very up and down. And then shortly into my first year, Brian Noble and Lee Greenwood took over. And they really narrowed down the squad and focused on the quality of the squad. And that's when our training level started to go up and back up to where I was used to be fair. The dynamics that you get in the Championship are ridiculous. Yeah, literally, like as you say, the travel to some teams when you're going up to Cumbria, playing on Batley and Featherstone, to playing at Odsal. And then again, like I say, the different pitches that you play on. The challenge every week is different. The players are different. You've got to get yourself up. It's a harder division than Super League. It's so consistent. It's so tight. I'm into my third year now at Bradford, and yeah, everybody can beat everybody on any given day. You have to turn up every single week and be on your game. In terms of differences, yeah, it is a bit slower than Super League, but yeah, there's some massive collisions, and there are still some very, 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 very good players in this division. Very good players, lots of ex-Super League players, lots of tough Championship players that have been playing for a long time, and yeah, every single week's a battle to get the 2 points. But no, I've loved it since coming to Bradford. I've absolutely loved my time here. I had 2 really tough injuries. My first 2 years at Bradford, 2 hamstring tears, very big ones, 3 Cs. Mainly because of I wasn't used to training the way you train in the Championship. So obviously in Super League, you'd say you'd play on a Friday, you wouldn't be back running again until Monday. So you'd always have 2 days off after a game. When we was at Bradford, in a lot of Championship teams, they'll train 2 days after a game. And me being obviously at the back end of my career, and I got 300 and nearly 70 games under my belt, I needed a little bit more time to recover. So both the big injuries that I'd done had took place in training, which was frustrating for those first 2 years, and they both happened early in the year. And then I'd come back around June, July time and finish the season. And both years, the run into the end of the year has been class. I've loved it. The boys are an absolutely outstanding group. I've got so much time for all the lads. And we've had some really good run-ins. Since I've been at Bulls, I've been part of 4 semi-finals, three semi-finals, unfortunately. Lost each one of those, 2 against Toulouse and 1 against Wakefield. And then we've managed to get ourselves in another semi-final, so hopefully it'll be 4th time lucky this time when we play York in about a month's time. So we've had some real success. Came with a vision of trying to help the club get back to Super League. I remember at the end of the World Cup, I met with Brian Noble and Jason Hurst, the CEO, and they just spoke about the vision of the club. They spoke about my role coming into the club. They thought I'd be the perfect person to try lead this group towards what they want to achieve and help set and push and enforce standards on the field and off the field, to be fair, as part of my role at that time. And at the end of last year, I remember coming back from injury. I was close to signing just before I got injured, and then the injury happened, and I was like to Freddie, that could be me. I don't think I'm going to go around again. And he said, wait till you get back playing, you'll feel better. I know what you're like, I know what this group's like. They'll suck you in and they'll get you. And I came back in July. I think I played about 3 or 4 games. And I went, yeah, Freddie, I'm ready. I'm ready.
He's back.
I'm back.
You're going again.
I'm back. I'm going again. Put pen to paper. I'd got word of some of the signings we'd made and the investment and the push that the club was making this year. And I was like, I want to be a part of that. And I feel like I can still contribute and I can still help us be successful. So, yeah, here I am in my about 2.5 years into my time at Bulls. And yeah, I'd have to say I've loved every minute. It really helped me find the love for the game again after obviously that tough year at 2022 at Huddersfield. I really found the joy for the game again.
And no better man to be leading the charge, I have to say. A couple of bits I wanted to touch on. Firstly, looping back around to the start of what we were talking about, the championship and the way it's improved. I think around COVID time, a lot of veterans or people who were coming towards the back end of the Super League signed like an extension because there was no one coming in. There was no one coming across from Australia. So a lot of people got like 1 or 2 year deals, and then it seems like a lot of them have filtered, or even people who weren't signed have come down into the championship, and the standard year on year has got better and better. So I debuted in I debuted Super League 2020, and I debuted in Championship 2021 on loan up at Whitehaven, and then like, because everyone signed COVID deals in Super League, everyone in the Championship also got like another year or 2. So the standard wasn't great. It was good, but it wasn't that good. You could see the difference, and that difference has closed down every year on year. 22 was a better competition. 23 was, and it's come down, and you see the result of it is the likes of Lee and the likes of Wakefield going up and running amok in the next competition up because the standard is closing down a lot. So it's crazy seeing that, and then. Obviously, touching on the excitement that's been around Bradford, that's one of the biggest reasons why I think I came. I seen, like, obviously I knew you were here. I knew loads of the lads were here, and then I knew lads who were signing as well. I was like, this is exciting. This is massively exciting, and I think that there was just something about it that got me excited, and I think it was one of those ones that like. When you see a vision, don't you? You go, you have to roll the dice sometimes, don't you? And comfort's the killer of all man, as they say. You know, if you stay comfortable, I felt like I was comfortable. I was comfortable in where I was, and getting uncomfortable is the best thing for yourself, isn't it? There's nothing grows in the comfort zone, and that's been the biggest thing for me, is that taking that plunge, getting out of my own head, and going, you know what? There's nothing wrong with testing yourself somewhere else, and sometimes you need that. You needed that shake up from Huddersfield. Like if you stayed there, you probably would have just like. And you might feel like a spare part, you know. And people get complacent with you as well. They go, "Oh, Bruno will still be happy to be like Bruno will still do his job when we give him the opportunity." But they get used to you, don't they? You just become part of the furniture. Do you know what I mean? It's the same like when you're an academy kid coming through, they just go, oh, "He'll keep doing his thing," but you're not an exciting signing because you've just extended. You know what I mean? But then when you come somewhere new and you come somewhere fresh, you have a new slate to start from, which has obviously what's revitalised you and got you fired back up about playing.
Massively. So I had the option. I had a year left on my contract at Huddersfield, so I could have run into 2023 at Huddersfield, and I could have been I've developed into a player that's probably 18th, 19th, 20th man around that squad area. That's where I was kind of drifting to under the last regime, and had a good conversation, and I realised that's not for me. I believe I've got way too much to offer. I believe I'm a starter. I believe I can still play big minutes and do my job to a high level every single week. And that was the big driving force behind me searching and pursuing a new opportunity. And obviously that came at Bradford. When I came here, I came full, hungry, ready to prove to mainly the teammates, coaches. They're the main people that I try to make sure I gain the respect of. That's probably the most important people you need the respect of in the game. Your teammates, you want to be someone that people want to play alongside, and your coaches, obviously, the people who pick the team, they need to respect you. And I think if you've got the respect of those people there, it goes a long way. I came with a real hunger and a drive to earn that respect in my first year. And then also kind of, like I said, be a leader and pass on any kind of experience or knowledge that I can do to help the group come to that next level. But yeah, like I said, I've come here and, like I said, the buzz and the excitement around the place and the aspirations of a club excited me as well. We have a joke about how we're full-time, part-time. Full-time, part-time, the way we train. Obviously part-time wages, but full-time hours. The way we train and his attitude to training and playing the game. But it's good. Although we have a laugh, I secretly love it because I'm that competitive, and that's where I want to be. I didn't want to come into the championship and fizzle out. I wanted to be at a top-end club that could still compete and challenge Super League clubs, as we've proven this year, beating Castleford, pushing Salford very close, obviously beating Huddersfield in a friendly. We're a top-end club and a top-end group, and that's the way we want to be, and that's what I wanted to be involved in. I didn't want to come to obviously the back end of my career and kind of just fizzle out and fall down the leagues. I want to be competing at a high level, because when I can't do that, I'll know that it's time.
That's time then. And let's just say this man hasn't waved his veteran card once, I don't think. No knees left, and you're still running around the concrete on Oddsall. I was looking at him Saturday morning, it's 8 o'clock, and he's there with his runners on. I'm like, Bruno, you're not going to play the old boys cat? About him winning as well, like winning his group on the run. I was like, this fella, he does not stop. He does not stop at all. Speaking of obviously being that person who you want to play with, obviously you've been there always as someone who I've looked up to massively. Who have been those players? You've been around the game so long, and who have been those players that you've always thought, I really look up to him. He's the type of bloke who I want to play with. Like, he's the type of person, because I think for me, like, obviously I've watched you throughout your whole career pretty much. You, Akuma, when I was coming through Huddersfield, massive role model, mentor, looking after me throughout my whole time there as a young kid who. That, like I keep saying, like I didn't know what I was doing, but like having Akuma, watching how professional yous were was massive, especially if yous were in the same position as me, like he's played in the middle, so it was massive having that guidance. But for you, who were those players that maybe even if they weren't role models, but people you just looked at and went, I love playing with. Like he's the type of bloke I want to play with. I want him in my 17 every week because he's who I want to play with. He gets the boys fired up.
As I said early on, a massive mentor. I think they kind of made him a mentor for me. So, like I said, he was pretty much the marquee signing at Huddersfield at the time. Was a guy called Paul Fawira. Obviously, he was still a current New Zealand international centre at the time, and I was just coming through in the centres. So pretty much everywhere we went, any away trip, any hotel, we would be staying in on the coach. I'd be sat next to him. I'd be rooming with him, all that kind of stuff. If he was doing extras, I'd be doing extras. I kind of just followed him around like a little bit of a lost dog, but it was great for me, absolutely great, because he was super professional. He trained so hard and worked so hard on his game, and I remember him leaving at the end of 2020, and he said to me, keep working hard, keep doing all your extras, being professional, and I promise you'll have a long career. Also Nathan Brown, he was a massive factor. He was massive for probably me, Leo and Jermaine in a very formative years, from like 17 to probably 21, 22. Still probably, I'd say to this day, probably the best coach I've ever had. He had that balance of player management, technical, tactical, and just being a great bloke. Really down and got it really right. And I remember him saying to me something that stuck with me my whole career. he said, always make sure you're consistent. He goes, that's the first thing a coach is going to look for. He goes, coaches want somebody reliable. Make sure every week that you're a 7 out of 10. He goes, non-stop. He goes, every now and then, he goes, you'll have an 8, a 9, 10 maybe. He goes, but never drop below that 7. He goes, because those players that have a 10 and then a 3 and then a 2 and another 9, he goes, they'll drift away. He goes, they'll have a couple of good years, they might get a good deal. He goes, but they won't have the longevity. And it's something that's always stuck with me. 19 years deep now. And I try to make sure every week that I don't drop below that 7.
Having that consistency, because consistency that's everything, isn't it? If you keep stacking those wins, keep stacking those consistent performances, next thing you know, you're hundreds and hundreds deep like you are now, and you're sat here reflecting on it a little bit. You said obviously Fatoir was your roomie at the time. Who was the worst roomie you've ever had?
Oh, worst roomie.
You're throwing someone under the bus here, but that'd be all right.
Worst roomie. I've had a couple. I've had some. Probably snoring wise, Leroy and Jermaine are bad for snoring. Yeah, Leroy and Jermaine are bad for snoring. Room Nathan Mason, who's at Bulls now, he's up there.
Messi.
Messi. Matty English, actually. Worst, yeah. Matty English, the worst, for reasons we won't discuss on the pod, but he knows. I just walked into the room one day and he was very flustered. That's all I was That's all I'll say.
The English useless roommate. Oh, stop. That's gas. In fairness, I think the all-time stinker. Me and Pat Moran were rooming together in Ireland. The all-time stinker I ever had was I didn't realise that his sister was a sister. Yeah. So I was just chatting. I was like 18 years old, blind. Just played against Italy, qualified for the World Cup, and like I was like, oh, this girl's hanging out with us. Like I just started chatting her up, and then she goes, do you know who I am? I'm Pat's sister. Oh fuck, I'm fucking rooming with this fella later on. He'll be listening to it, he'll be thinking, oh my god, what a clown he is. But yeah, I think that Pat's a good roommate, but I was probably the shit roommate that time. I was lucky I didn't get flogged in the middle of the night. Like,
yeah, awkward.
But yeah, I think they're the good times, aren't they? When you're reflecting back on them, when you go through the peaks and troughs, and you go, geez, there's little moments like that you just look back on and laugh. I think for one of the ones, my earliest memories, I think one of my first experiences, my first pre-season it was. We went to do the 3 peaks at the end of pre-season. Do you remember this?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was one of the biggest pre-season I've ever had. I think I lost 5 kilos by accident. Yeah. Like I didn't try to lose 5 kilos. I was just getting flogged and not eating enough. I was only 18, like I didn't have a clue. And then like 20th of December, we had 6 o'clock start going for the 3 peaks. Yeah. Oh my god, that was probably the worst of the worst, I reckon. But the best of the best, because you get it done and you're having a few beers at the end and you're looking back and you're going, Jesus, that was some crack. But we always go on about it, don't we? We go back, do you remember that? Do you remember we got through that pre-season?
That's it. That's what you take with you, innit? Obviously, you remember the games and you remember, obviously, the wins and all that kind of stuff, but it's probably the memories in between and the crack in between. That's probably what sticks with you the most. The banter that you have in the changing rooms, during the tough times. A lot of good memories and stuff like that I made in pre-season, especially on the pre-season camps. And probably in 10, 20 years time, that's probably still the things you'll talk about. For sure. What's the worst camp you've been on? Worst camp? Like most brutal pre-season camp? Because I've not done. I feel like pre-season camps are sort of gone in a way now. They're not. Yeah. It was people go to nice places like Tenerife and that now. Yeah. They're not doing 3 peaks in 20th of December. The most brutal was, I'd say, December, November. I think it was 2012. Going into the year at Huddersfield when we won the League Leaders Shield, they took us up to Catterick to do an army camp, 3-day army camp. And it was the coldest I've ever been in my life. They put us on ration packs. We were sleeping outside. I just remember Big Stu Fielden. He must have done. Obviously, he was coming to the back end of his career at that time, and he'd done a fair few. He must have done a fair few army camps, and we're all there getting tucked up. And he stood above the fire, just warming his hands, going, "Anytime now, lads. Anytime now. They're going to wake us up." And lo and behold, boom! Next minute, they chuck these smoke bombs into our tent. Smoke us out, we have to go outside, it's snowing, and we end up going on this 3-4 mile run, carrying these logs and all that kind of stuff, running around in the snow, pitch black, 5 o'clock in the morning. And there's Paul Anderson, he's in like a van with the sergeants behind us laughing as we're running along in the snow. Yeah, we've done some tough ones, but that was really hard, but obviously we went on to have a really successful year. So guess what they wanted to do the year after?
Army camp.
Yeah,
Let's go.
We'll go straight back. We had to go back and do it again. But yeah, no, I'd say that's probably the hardest one I've ever done. Yeah, I've done some grueling army camps, definitely.
Yeah, don't sound fun at all. Going into the next stage of your career, after being around the game as long as you can, if there's anyone who's younger listening, what would you say to them, or what would your advice maybe be to your younger self who was going through it all again, knowing what you know now?
In terms of what
Just
exactly?
if you were going to walk this journey again
Yeah.
as a professional athlete, what advice would you give to your younger self, or to a young person who's listening and goes, I want to be a pro, but I want some good advice from someone who's done it all.
Fair play. So, in terms of performance, I'd say, hard work. Hard work, nothing beats it. You're going to have to work hard. You also have to work on what you're good at. You're going to have to be talented and have a talent. But you're going to have to work hard with that as well, definitely. Because talent takes you so far in this game, and then it's the hard work. Because once you get to the higher level you go up, there's more talented players. And somebody who's never get comfortable, that'd be another one. People are always trying to take your spot, whether that's within the club, within the team. Coaches and clubs are always looking for players from elsewhere to bring in. So never get comfortable. You're always competing. You're competing against people you've not even met yet, because they could be looking at people in your position. Do you know what I mean? So never get comfortable. That's the one thing I always thought. Can never get comfortable. It's always been a driving force for me. You're always kind of living in a state of anxiety. And you can never really come out of that until you retire, because you're never safe. Your job's never safe. You've got to stay at the top of your game. And even when you're playing every week, you're not just playing to win that game. You're playing to keep your spot. You're playing to earn a new contract. You're constantly chasing. You never can settle. So yeah, stay hungry, I'd say, and never get comfortable. Probably the piece of psychological advice I'd give my younger self was to be, try stay level, stay more level. Try not to get too high and try not to get too low. Obviously, rugby league careers throw a lot of adversity at you in terms of injury, selection, results. Try to be focused and just stay focused on what you can control. The outside noise, outside problems, things like that that are out of your control. Try not to focus too much on them. It's probably took me till probably these last 3 years to get to that point. So yeah, that's probably some of the advice I would give to my younger self. It's easier to say it than live it. But yeah, I think if you did that, you'd be a lot more calm and level-headed throughout your career. Not level-headed as in big-headed, but just in a better sense and better state of peace, I'd say.
Absolutely. Michael Lawrence, that was a serious message. Thanks for coming on.
No worries. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.